am a 26-year-old woman named Maya, and sometimes I feel like I was born into my family just to be everyone's backup plan. You know how some families have that one person who ends up doing everything while the rest act like they are saints for showing up once a month? That is me. I am the middle child between my older brother Ryan, who is 32 and thinks he's the second coming of Father of the Year, and my younger sister Amber, who is 23 and has perfected the art of pretending to be helpless. My parents, Linda and Carl, are in their late 50s and love to brag about how close our family is. They always say things like, "We're so family oriented, we take care of our own." What they really mean is Maya takes care of everyone, and they take credit for it. I have always been the reliable one, the one who shows up, the one who keeps things running, the one who never says no because someone has to be the adult in the room. I work full-time as a nurse, so my schedule is already brutal. I work 12-hour shifts, nights, weekends, and holidays. I get maybe 1 or 2 days off a week, and those days are sacred. But to my family, my days off are just opportunities for them to dump their problems onto me. Mom calls me when she needs a ride to her hair appointment. Dad asks me to help with a quick project, which always turns into a 6-hour ordeal in the garage. Ryan and his wife Katie have 2 daughters, Lily, who is 6, and Harper, who is 4, and they treat me like their personal on-call babysitter. Amber doesn't ask for much, but she's always conveniently unavailable whenever someone needs help, so it all circles back to me anyway. Last Sunday was supposed to be my first real day off in nearly 3 weeks. I had already planned it out in my head. Sleep until I woke up naturally, maybe around 10, grab brunch with my best friend Jenna at this cozy cafe we love, and then wander through a thrift market downtown. Nothing fancy, just a quiet day that was entirely mine. Around 8 in the morning, my phone buzzed. It was Dad. Without so much as a good morning, he said, "You can't make any plans today. You're babysitting Ryan's kids. They've got some event to go to." His tone wasn't even a question. It was an order. I just laughed because I honestly thought he was joking. I said, "I'm not interested in your plans, Dad." There was a pause on the line, a sigh, and then he hung up. I assumed that meant he realized I was serious and he'd find someone else. By noon, I was sitting on a sunny patio with Jenna, sipping a mimosa and eating French toast like I had finally achieved inner peace. My phone started vibrating like crazy. Mom, Ryan, even Amber, all of them were calling and texting me, asking where I was, why I wasn't answering, and telling me that the kids were waiting. I scrolled through the messages and realized what had happened. Dad had apparently told everyone that I had agreed to babysit. Ryan and Katie had already left for some wine festival 2 towns over. Mom texted, "Just take them, sweetie, and it's only a few hours." I put my phone face down and told Jenna that I wasn't letting them ruin this day. When I got home that evening, I made myself some pasta, put on Netflix, and settled in for the kind of lazy night I never get. Around 6:30, there was a knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I looked through the peephole and nearly dropped my dinner. Standing there were my nieces, Lily and Harper, bundled up in their little jackets, each holding a small bag. Behind them, a Lyft driver was already walking back to his car. I opened the door and just stared at them. Lily smiled and said, "Hi, Auntie M." I blinked in disbelief as the driver waved and called out, "They said you were expecting them," and then got in his car and drove away. I looked inside one of the bags and found some snacks, pajamas, and a note that said, "Thanks, Auntie M. We'll pick them up later tonight. You're the best." I swear my brain short-circuited for a second. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment. I don't have toys, extra beds, or anything remotely child-proof. I hadn't agreed to this. I called Ryan immediately. No answer. Then Katie. Straight to voicemail. I called my parents next, and Dad picked up. I told him, "What is going on? Ryan and Katie just sent their kids to my place. I didn't agree to this." He sighed like I was being dramatic and said, "You said you'd do it, Maya. Don't start this drama." I told him I never agreed to anything, and he snapped, "Don't let the kids hear you yelling. Be responsible." Then he hung up on me. At that moment, something inside me just broke. I wasn't even angry yet. I was stunned. I ordered pizza because the kids were hungry, set them up with cartoons, and sat on the couch trying to figure out what to do next. I texted every adult in my family group chat saying they had 1 hour to come get the kids or I'd take action. Nobody replied. An hour passed, then another. It was after 9 when I realized Ryan and Katie weren't coming back anytime soon. I was exhausted, angry, and frankly, a little scared. If something happened to those kids while they were here, if they got hurt or sick, it would all somehow be my fault. So I called the police's non-emergency line. I explained that 2 children had been left at my home without my consent, that their parents were unreachable, and that I didn't feel comfortable being responsible for them. The dispatcher was calm and understanding. She said, "You absolutely did the right thing," and sent an officer over. When the officer arrived, I showed him the note, my phone with all the missed calls, and my messages. He was very professional, but also clearly unimpressed with my brother and his wife. He told me that since I hadn't consented to take the children, it technically counted as child abandonment. He called Child Protective Services and they arranged for the girls to be taken to their grandparents' house, which meant my parents' house. When the social worker showed up, I explained everything again. She was kind to the kids and to me and made sure Lily and Harper understood that they were safe. The girls were a little confused but calm. I helped them gather their things and they left around 10:30. I sat in silence afterward, half angry, half relieved. I felt bad that the girls had to be caught in the middle, but I knew I couldn't keep letting my family walk all over me. At 2 a.m, my phone rang again. It was Ryan. The second I picked up, he started yelling. He screamed, "What the hell, Maya? You called the cops on my kids. You traumatized them." I said, "You dumped them on my doorstep without telling me. You're lucky it was me and not a stranger." He shouted, "Your family! Family helps family!" His voice cracked like he was the victim. I felt my pulse thudding in my ears as I said, "Then maybe the rest of the family can start helping for once." 2 days after everything went down, I thought I could finally breathe. I went back to work, trying to pretend things were normal, but every time my phone buzzed, I felt that same spike of irritation. I knew it was only a matter of time before my parents decided to talk things out, which in my family always meant they'd guilt trip me until I apologized for something I didn't do. Sure enough, during my lunch break, my phone lit up with Mom's name. I debated ignoring it, but she would just keep calling until I picked up. Her tone was calm at first, the kind of fake sweetness she uses when she's about to make me feel like the villain. She said she just wanted to smooth things over, which in my family is code for explain why you're the problem. She said CPS had followed up with some questions and that she and Dad looked bad. She emphasized that last part like it was the real tragedy. Apparently, the officer had asked why 2 small children were left at an apartment without the occupant's consent. She said, "You could have just handled it quietly, Maya. There was no need to make a scene." I told her that I was done being the family's backup parent, chauffeur, and emergency plan for other people's irresponsibility. I said that if they were embarrassed, they should direct that energy toward Ryan and Katie, who thought it was acceptable to dump their kids on someone without asking. She immediately went into her signature martyr act, saying that Ryan was under stress, that Katie had been juggling so much lately, that it was just one night and I could have helped out. I told her that stress doesn't justify abandoning kids, and if Ryan's idea of being under pressure is leaving 2 toddlers with no warning, then maybe he shouldn't be a parent until he learns what responsibility looks like. She didn't like that. The guilt trip shifted into anger. She said I always make things harder than they need to be, that I should have just called her instead of escalating things. I reminded her that I did call and Dad told me not to start drama, and then hung up. There was silence for a moment before she sighed dramatically and said she didn't know what to tell the neighbors because apparently the police car outside my parents' house when CPS dropped the girls off was the latest gossip fuel. It was incredible. The whole situation was somehow about how it made them look, not about the fact that their son left his kids like a package on my doorstep. By the end of the call, I could tell she wasn't listening to a word I said. She wrapped up by saying that she hoped I would apologize to Ryan eventually so the family could move on. I told her flatly that I didn't have anything to apologize for, and that if Ryan had an issue with me, he could deal with the consequences of his own behavior. She made a noise like she was about to cry, said something about how sad it is when siblings can't get along, and hung up. That same evening, my younger sister Amber texted me. I saw her name pop up, and honestly, I expected her to take mom's side like usual, but her message started with, "I get it." She said she understood why I was mad and that what Ryan did was not cool, but then she added that I could have been nicer about it. That phrase almost made me laugh. Nicer? How does one nicely handle being tricked into surprise childcare and then blamed for doing something about it? Before I could even decide how to reply, another notification popped up. A Venmo request from Amber for $40 with the note, "Covered gas driving to mom and dad's that night." I stared at it for a solid minute. Apparently, my sister decided that driving to our parents' house to see the aftermath of their chaos was a service I now owed her money for. I didn't even dignify it with a response. I just closed the app, turned off my phone, and spent the evening in blissful silence. The next morning, I woke up to 3 missed calls from Ryan and 2 from Mom. I didn't call back. But when I checked Facebook during lunch, I understood why they were all so worked up. Ryan had lost his mind on social media. He'd posted one of those vague, dramatic statuses that people write when they want attention but not accountability. It said something like, "It's always the people you trust the most who show their true colors. Some snakes hide in your own family." It had over a dozen sympathy comments already. Old friends, distant relatives, even people from our high school days saying things like, "You deserve better, bro," and "Family can be so fake." Katie, his wife, couldn't resist jumping in. She commented, "So sad when jealousy breaks families apart. Stay strong, babe." That one made my jaw drop. Jealousy? Of what? Their life consists of unpaid bills, constant fighting, and dumping their kids on other people. What exactly was I supposed to be jealous of? Their irresponsibility. My cousin, who has zero patience for drama, screenshotted the entire thread and sent it to me with a simple message, "Your brother's lost it." I scrolled through every self-pitying comment, every dramatic like and heart emoji, and all I could do was shake my head. My cousin screenshotted it for me, and honestly, it was pathetic. About a week later, just when I thought the storm had passed, I got a call from an unfamiliar number during my shift change. Normally, I ignore unknown calls, but something told me to answer. It was a caseworker from Child Protective Services. My stomach tightened for a second, thinking they might be following up about the girls, but her tone was calm and professional. She said she was just verifying details for the ongoing report. She wanted to confirm that I hadn't agreed to babysit Ryan's kids that night, and that the drop-off had happened without my knowledge or consent. I told her everything again. I explained the phone call with my dad that morning, the texts from my family, the Lyft driver dropping the girls off like they were a delivery, the note in the diaper bag, all of it. She asked if I had any proof of communication leading up to the event, and I said I did. That night, after my shift, I sent her screenshots of every text and a photo of the note Ryan and Katie had left. Within an hour, she replied, thanking me for the documentation and saying it helped a lot. Then she said something that caught me completely off guard. She told me this wasn't the first time a report had come up involving my brother and his wife. She didn't give me every detail, but she said there's a pattern of behavior when it comes to leaving the children with family members for extended or unplanned periods. Apparently, Ryan and Katie have a habit of dropping their kids off for a few hours that turn into entire weekends. My parents had been on the receiving end of it multiple times. They just never reported it because, according to the caseworker, my parents always handled things quietly. It was their way of keeping up appearances, pretending everything was fine while covering for Ryan's irresponsibility. Now, though, because I made an official record of it, it's documented. It's no longer just a family secret brushed under the rug. That realization made me feel both vindicated and sad at the same time. Vindicated because I wasn't crazy. My family really had been using me as a fallback for years, but sad because it took something this extreme for anyone to take it seriously. The next day, I got another surprise. My dad called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won out. His voice was different this time. Quieter, tired, like someone who'd just been forced to look in a mirror they didn't like. He said he wanted to talk about what happened. He actually apologized, not a full emotional apology. My father's not capable of that kind of vulnerability, but it was something. He said that maybe it wasn't fair to expect me to give up my only day off, that he hadn't realized how much I was working, and that things had gotten a little out of hand. He also said Mom had been really upset because CPS called her for questioning. According to him, she was humiliated that the system was now aware of the family drama. He said she'd been crying on and off, worrying about what people might think. I almost laughed at the irony. She wasn't upset about what actually happened, just about how it looked from the outside. That was my parents in a nutshell. Their biggest fear has always been embarrassment, not accountability. Then Dad dropped another piece of news. He said Ryan was furious because there's a chance his job might find out. Apparently, CPS reports sometimes trigger background checks depending on the field, especially if there's any mention of child welfare or negligence. He said Ryan was worried this could affect his employment status. He was saying it like he expected me to express concern, but I didn't feel any. Ryan works in insurance, not childcare. He'll survive. Ryan hasn't spoken to me since the whole CPS situation. Not a text, not a call, not even a passive-aggressive emoji reaction on social media. It's like I've been completely erased from his existence. Honestly, it's been quiet, and I can't say I miss the drama. The only time I hear about him now is through my mom, who seems to think her personal mission in life is to play family therapist, even though she's the least neutral person imaginable. Every time we talk, she slips in some version of the same phrase, that I should just apologize to fix things. She says it like it's some magical reset button that will make everyone suddenly functional again. I keep telling her that I'm not apologizing for enforcing a boundary, but she refuses to hear it. In her mind, peace only counts if I'm the one swallowing my pride to keep everyone else comfortable. The strange thing is that even though Ryan's been completely silent, his wife Katie wasn't. Last night, right as I was getting ready for bed, I saw a text from her. For a second, I thought it was going to be another guilt trip or some passive-aggressive comment about family loyalty. But instead, it was something completely unexpected. She said, "I shouldn't have dropped them off like that. I was angry and overwhelmed. I'm sorry for putting you in that spot." I had to read it twice because it didn't sound like the Katie I knew. She's usually defensive, always quick to shift blame or justify whatever she and Ryan do. This message, though, felt genuine. It wasn't a full redemption arc, but it was something, a moment of accountability I didn't expect from anyone in that branch of the family tree. Then she went further. She admitted that Ryan was the one who told the Lyft driver to leave the kids even though the driver asked if an adult was coming to the door. According to her, Ryan said, "Maya won't say no." That line stuck with me. It was like a punch in the gut because it perfectly summed up the way my family has always seen me, not as a person with her own life and limits, but as someone who exists to fill whatever gap they can't be bothered to handle. Katie said that CPS told them they'd have to attend parenting classes and undergo surprise home visits for a few months. She didn't sound angry about it. She actually sounded embarrassed. She said it was a wake-up call for both of them. For the first time in this entire mess, it felt like someone in my family finally understood the gravity of what they'd done. I told her I didn't want to fight, that I just wanted everyone to stop treating me like the default babysitter or the family safety net. She said she understood now, that she was sorry it took something like this for her to see it. I appreciated the honesty, even if I wasn't convinced it would change much. People in my family are great at saying they understand boundaries and terrible at actually respecting them. Still, it was the first apology that didn't sound like it was written by a lawyer or coached by guilt. Since then, I've been doing something radical for someone who grew up in a family like mine, living for myself. I stopped picking up every call the second it came through. I silenced the family group chat for an entire week. I started using my days off the way they were meant to be used, resting, recharging, and doing whatever makes me feel like a human being instead of a full-time crisis manager. Last weekend, I did something I've been too scared to do for years. I took a solo trip, just me. I booked a cheap flight to Denver, found a cozy Airbnb near the mountains, and spent 3 days wandering the city, drinking good coffee, and not answering to anyone. No phone calls, no guilt trips, no plans dictated by someone else's needs. It was quiet in the best possible way. For the first time in what feels like forever, I realized how peaceful life can be when you stop letting people treat your kindness like an obligation. When I got home, there were 6 missed calls from Mom and 1 from Dad. I ignored all of them and spent the rest of the evening unpacking and eating takeout in silence. Then, just before midnight, my phone buzzed again. It was a text from Dad. The message said, "We're all having a family dinner Sunday, no excuses." I stared at it for a moment, feeling that familiar mix of frustration and amusement. I could already picture the scene: Mom acting like nothing happened, Ryan sulking in silence, Amber scrolling on her phone, pretending to be Switzerland. I wasn't interested in going back to that. I typed out, "I'm not interested in your plans, Dad." Hit send and smiled. And that's where things stand now. My family is still trying to pretend everything's fine. Ryan's still pretending he's the victim. And I'm finally learning what it feels like to put myself first without guilt. It turns out peace isn't something other people give you. It's something you choose when you stop letting them take it away. Thanks for listening to my story, and if you've ever been the responsible one in your family, remember this: saying no doesn't make you selfish, it makes you free. Thanks for watching.